So, my name is Marnisha, and this is my story.
Can you share with us how your journey with substance and alcohol use began and evolved over time?
How my journey with substance use and alcohol began and evolved. Yes. With alcohol, that started at 14 after I lost my father. And I didn't know at the time that I was numbing. I didn't know anything about grief, the process of grief, any of that. So I continued to drink all throughout my teens and 20s, and that's just because I seen that growing up. My drug use didn't start until I was 29, and I was actually a substance use counselor at the time, working in the prisons. And I did not know that I had an addiction to men. And I ended up in a relationship with an inmate, and when he got out, he introduced me to drugs. It started off with Molly, just party drug. And when we couldn't get that, it graduated to cocaine. And then the one night he didn't have cocaine, he told me all he had was the rock form. So he's like, I can break that up and put it in some weed for you. So then he did that, and that opened up a door that I didn't even know was shut. And that continued on from 2013 until 2018. It progressed up until 2016, where it was just the weekends with the smoking. I would do like the powder form during the week. If somebody had some pills available, I would take those, but I didn't go out seeking and searching for those. But there came a day in August 2016 where my brother took me to a dealer that I had never been to before. And what he had was the best that I had ever experienced at that time. And then the next thing I know, I was smoking every day. And the way I word it is I became a slave to crack. And whatever it told me to do, that's what I did.
How did becoming a parent impact your relationship with substance abuse?
I was already a parent, so it was tough. I did the best that I could, though, until I couldn't do no more. And a lot of people would say that I chose the drugs over the children. That's not what happened. It was December of 2016. And that's when I realized that I was so bad off that there was nothing that I had to offer my children anymore. So they always caught the bus at their aunt's house. So that day when I dropped them off to catch the bus, I never went back. I didn't call anybody. I didn't answer the phone. I didn't go home. I didn't go to work. I stayed where what I needed was. And in my head, I just kept saying, the children, I know they're safe. I didn't know how to ask somebody, can you just keep them? Because I don't know what to do. So I did what I felt was best for my children at that time, because they didn't deserve to see their mother like that. Soon as payday would hit, my paycheck hit, I'd tell them, Mommy's got to go out and get her gas for work in the morning. And they would ask me for things, and I knew I wasn't coming right back. I knew that I was going to go and get high. But their stuff was always there for them when they woke up in the morning. I always made sure I kept my word somewhat up the time. I just never came right back. But I always had what they asked for. And I know only my oldest noticed that something was wrong with mommy. My youngest, she couldn't catch on to anything. And it caused a big tear between my relationship with them. I let it tear it apart.
Okay. Can you describe a Can you describe a moment that you realized changes were needed in your life regarding substance abuse?
Mm.
So when was the pivotal moment? You need to change.
The pivot moment. You know, I've actually been talking about this moment so much this week. I had got some clean time in me once. I was up here at the Salvation Army program, stayed for 6 months. And, you know, that was all my parents said I had to go away for was 6 months. And then I stayed clean for about 2 after that. But I wasn't going to any meetings, no sponsor, none of that, because, you know, I felt like I got this now. I done spent 6 months away from everything, and I ended up relapsing on a beautiful Sunday morning with no care or problem going on in my life. And my oldest daughter told my sister that every time she let me in, I let her down. And at that moment, it was either I'm going to take my life or I have to get my life together. So I'm here 5 years and 10 months later to say, I decided to get my life together. And it's been a journey because at that time I couldn't really see the hurt that I was causing other people, because I was so focused on the hurt that I was carrying and that I wanted everybody to understand, not realizing that I've got 2 little people that I'm hurting because I don't know how to fix my hurt. So thank God for my oldest.
How did you decide to seek support or treatment, and what was that experience like?
How did I decide to seek support and treatment? There was a guy. Of course, they're involved all throughout the story. But there's a guy, and we'll say he had been 13th stepping me when I got out of the program. And my disease didn't like him because he just talked recovery all the time, just recovery. And I'm like, there is more to life than just recovery. Mm-hmm. So like I ended up not talking to him anymore. But the day that I was at that point where like, I need help, I called him. I was like, I need help. I don't know who to call. I don't know where to go. So he gave me the number to Meadowwood, the behavioral health hospital in Newcastle. So I called them, and they said, all we have is a bed on the geriatric unit. I said, I'll take it. And I got there, and they almost were going to deny me until they got to the question of, have you had thoughts of hurting yourself? And I told them, yes. If this doesn't stop, I'm going to figure out how to end it all. It's like, because I'd rather one final hurt than to keep continuously hurting everybody. So they kept me. I was there for 5 days, and I gave up my will because it was clear to me that the way that I did things was just not working. There was something that I was missing because I had been to treatment at that point 3 times. And I was a substance abuse counselor. So everybody really thought that I should have had all the answers. But I didn't. And I just let those that were in charge of my case at whichever place, I was like, whatever you tell me to do, then that's what I'm going to do. And then I ended up at the Lyman House. I hadn't heard anything. I didn't know anything about the Lyman House. And I was in for a ride that I wasn't expecting. I went in with expectations. Yeah, that didn't work. But I completed it. And I spent a total of 15 months in treatment. I took the time that I needed to get better for me so that I could be better for them.
Now you want to ask a question? So I know you were talking about your trauma, right? And one thing that we want to talk about is like how intergenerational trauma, right, impacts like substance use, the impact on that. I don't know what you're open to sharing, but what was your trauma? Like, what do you think was your trigger, or what would you think that contributed to the addiction?
We got childhood molestation. We got adulthood sexual assault. Grew up witnessing my mother be abused. My father was an addict, and he contracted AIDS virus and passed away when I was 14. There was always drugs and alcohol somewhere. And I know that my mother's mother didn't have a mother. Her mother passed when she was 4. So that just carried on down.
Like
Generational. Because her sister was in charge. And I know that a lot of those things, they impacted me. And some of it was buried. I didn't even know that I was molested as a child until I think I was 28, almost 29. And I had a flashback that scared me because it was so real. It was like I was standing in my aunt's bedroom doorway watching me and her husband at the time and what he was making me do to him. So it was at a very young age that I was taught. So that was embedded in me in a young age that if I do something for a man, he's going to give me something in return. Because we always got candy or maybe $1.
And one thing, so with the HEAP, this is like the HEAP project is focused on substance use. We decided to focus on Black women specifically. And the reason why that even this project came to be is I read that Delaware has the 5th highest rate of pregnant women with substance use disorder, right? And then when they got to Black women, I want you to hear this, and I was just like, whoa. It was talking about substance use, and they said that they're seeing an increase for Black women, 181%, compared to a 27% increase in non-Hispanic white women in substance use for specifically pregnant people. I knew it was an issue, but then when you read it and you see that clear disparity between Black and white or whatever it may be, that was heartbreaking to me, right, as a Black woman. And then understanding, like, we talk about like our own individual trauma, but like even generational trauma just collectively as Black women who have experienced, I think has contributed to a lot of the factors here. But I know you talked about your kids, so they end up living with your sister, or did you have to deal with DFS or any of those systems?
No, like they bounced around. Like at first I left them with their dad's sister, then they ended up with my mom. Then I think they went to another dad's sister. Like they just went around, bounced around until like eventually my oldest sister, she got temporary custody of my youngest daughter. So she took her in and she had her for 4 years. And she already had 4 kids and a step bonus child of her own. My oldest, she was a lot to handle for people. So she just bounced around from family member to family member. She was always with family. And then, she ended up getting it together. She almost failed. She almost didn't graduate on time, but she buckled down, doubled up on them classes the last 2 years, and still walked with her class. So.
And stigma. How did people treat you? How did your family treat you? What did your support look like? What was that like?
In the beginning, I knew it was rough. But my sister under me, she said that, when I was in Lyman House, we had a long conversation one day. And she was like, do you know that I came to look for you? She was like, we came to look for you when you were out there. And I was so angry at you. She said, but it wasn't until I separated you from your addiction. She said, because I told myself, that's not my sister. That's not my sister. And from there, we have been able to build a strong emotional bond that we can't build with anybody else. Because she wants to learn, and she wants to heal, and she wants to break that cycle of the generational trauma within her bloodline as well, because it keeps going until somebody gets enough courage to say enough is enough, and we got to stop and stand up for ourselves. So I realized that this is a journey that I had to go on to help somebody else get to the other side. And I don't know why so many Black women, I don't know why they're in so much pain that they're turning to drugs now. I don't know. But I want them to know that if you need a hug, I'll hug you. 'Cause you're never gonna get that first feeling again. It's a chase and a chase and a chase and a chase. And you never win.
In what ways has your journey influenced your parenting style and approach?
What ways has my journey influenced parenting style and approach? I do a lot of apologizing to my children. And they're not even children. They are 22 and almost 19.
Oh, okay.
But those are still mommy's babies. Those are my adult kids. Sorry, can you repeat the question?
Yes. And what ways
Has
has
it shaped
your
them?
journey
Yes.
influenced your parenting style and your approach?
I apologize. When I see other parents treating their children in ways that I treated mine, and it affects me, it does something to me. And then I'm like, you were like that. So like we have a little group chat and like I'll apologize, even like I am so sorry that I yelled at you in the morning time, getting ready for school because I overslept. I overslept and I'm taking it out on you all. Y'all went to bed on time, you got your rest. So I made a lot of amends. I try to let go and let them live, but while still guiding them and trying to lead in the right direction. And more so, it's me living by example now and being able to show them that maybe you can go through anything and still make a comeback. Because as we sit here and we think 5 years and 10 months and 29 days ago, I was still in active addiction. A crack pipe was the only thing that I was worried about. Now I'm most upset because I went 2 months without being able to hug my daughter because I didn't have transportation. And that hurt. So that's where the parenting is at now. I will never leave my children lonely. I will never leave them ever again. They know, Mommy, I'm the Motel 6. I will keep the light on. And right now I'm an empty nester without a nest. And I'm like, what do you do with that? I was like, and I need the nest. I was like, because I want them to always know that the nest is here for you to come back to. No matter what. It will never be too late for them to come back home.
Can you share a specific strategy that has been particularly effective for you in maintaining sobriety?
Yes. Strategies to help me maintain. For the first couple of years, for the first two years, I did total abstinence. I did complete sobriety from everything. And then I graduated, I started studying on other different paths of recovery because I was just in strictly AA. And I love what AA did for me. I love the life that it brought to me. And it also showed me the life that I didn't want. I didn't want a life of judging people for the way that they chose to recover. So I practice what is called point-in-time abstinence. So I stay free from my drug of choice. And then started working on my mental health because that was the real root of the problem. So as long as I keep that regulated, I don't have to worry about anything else. But it's a lot of prayer and healing the spiritual side of me that was broken. So me and God, me and my God, we've been on a journey. Ooh, we've been on a journey. Sometimes I'm walking and sometimes he's carrying me. But there's some things he's had to open my eyes up to and for me to see. And I've had to see it in real time. And I know that as long as I just trust in him, everything is going to be okay. I have already had, situations where it would be so easy to just slip back into it. Even now, it's a lot of life challenges going on. Even when life is together, things are still happening. And it wasn't my thought, but even the thought came and it was like, yo, girl, you already got nothing right now. So what are you still trying for? You might as well just go on back out there because you already done lost everything when you was doing good. So just go ahead and do it. I'm like, it's like I rebuke you, just stop talking. And sometimes that's what you really have to do if you're a person that is struggling. And when that voice gets to talking to you, talk out loud to it and tell it to shut up. And it will be quiet. It'll be quiet. It's a fleeting moment. Don't rest in it. It's the moment that we rest in that, then that's when we start putting together the plan of action. I haven't gotten to a point of plan of action in 5 years and 10 months. And I'm so grateful for that.
I saw him.
No, that's fine. That's all part of how it works.
Mhm.
Is it Windows 10? You hadn't read that out? Or you hadn't read that out? It's up to you.
I seen a red light on, so I ain't
You
come
know what I'm
in.
saying? Are you staying?
Yeah, no problem, yeah.
Okay, here you go. Thank you.
The plug in there too.
Oh, okay. So I know that you have mentioned that you talked to your sister, but how do you communicate with your family about your past experiences with substance abuse?
Honestly, the way I communicate with it, I make jokes of it. Of course, it's probably considered dark humor, but we make light of the situation because sometimes, like, we'll look at it, they're like, yo, Marnisha, you was really smoking crack. I'm like, I know, right? Like, me, Marnie, what? So sometimes, like, we joke about it. Other times it's a serious conversation where it's not all people. Sometimes it's, normally just, it might be my daughters or the sisters that do express emotion. They'll let me know how that felt for them, to see me out there. And I have to sit there and accept it and listen because I did it. And these are the things that I put them through. And there's still a lot of apologies that I do know I need to make. And when I do go to make one, they tell me, just keep doing what you're doing. We got our Nisha back. So just keep doing what you're doing. So like I live a little over an hour away from my family. So I don't get to see them that often. So when we get together for holidays, it's a blast. And then they're not talking about that, and they're talking about my first experience with childbirth. So they always gonna get a laugh out of me.
Okay, great. What advice would you give to other people who are currently struggling with substance use?
First, I would say, take it easy on yourself. You're doing the best you can with what you have right now. Right now, this is all you know. But I want to let you know that there is several ways out. And you can decide which way is best for you. There's many programs. And as hard as it is to do, it's just a simple 4-letter word. Just ask for help. Just ask for help. And help will come. It will come. And just allow other people to just take control for a little while. Let them steer the car, because you just keep driving around in circles, and you're driving around in circles. And they know the direction. So let them guide you down that tunnel into the light. Find the program that suits you. It's not a one-size-fits-all program. Sobriety that's not how recovery works. It's person-oriented. Find what works best for you. Know that before anything else, you're a person first. You are loved, and you matter. And when you're ready, just reach out for help.
What are some misconceptions you encounter about substance abuse that you would like to address?
It's not a choice. A lot of people, they think that it is a choice. The first time, yes. The first use, definitely. It's a choice. And then the power of choice is gone way before we even realize it. When I first started, like I went to put on a pair of pants and they didn't fit, and I was confused because I'm like, where did my weight go? 40 pounds was just gone within a month. Within a month. It's not a choice. We want to stop as much as you all want us to stop. And we do care. We don't have the capacity to show that we care during that time. We're not selfish. A lot of us are carrying things and have walked a walk that most people would never survive. A lot of addiction stems from untreated and undiagnosed mental illness. Addiction is now classified as a mental illness. It is a disease. So as they say, nobody chooses to have cancer. Nobody chooses to have diabetes. The same way I didn't choose to have hypertension, I didn't choose to become a slave to crack. It happened. But somebody had to go through it to be able to sit here to tell somebody else how to get to the other side.
Looking back, what would you say has been the most rewarding aspect of your journey in recovery?
All of it. I have met some really amazing people. And now, this current day, my supervisor is someone that knows me from this walk of life. Well, once I first came into recovery, neither one of us would have pictured that we would be working together from almost 6 years ago until today. So to hear somebody else talk about my growth, that's when it really, really means the most, when other people see it. Because if I see it, I might get a little cocky and a little arrogant, and then that's when it starts slipping back into old behaviors. But anytime I see the light come on in somebody else's eyes, anytime they just come alive, anytime I see someone and they tell me, like, it's because of you that I did this, and those are the important parts. Those are the most memorable. And I wouldn't change anything.
So, can you share how finding treatment in Delaware as a woman and POC was for you?
For me, finding treatment in Delaware as a woman, POC, it wasn't hard. It's like I said, I had been through a couple of programs. I went through the same one twice. That was in PA. But my sister set that up for me because I wasn't responsible enough to do that. But then the ones that I did end up in, I started out in Meadowood. They got me as mentally stable as they could. And then from there, they transitioned me to Gaudensia, where I sat there for about 2 weeks. And then I transitioned into Lyman House, and when I got to there was one other POC in the house. And then another one came, I think like the day after me or a couple days after. And the one that was there when I had already got there, we became very close. She was older. I took to her, and of course, naturally, because we were the only people of color. But then she ended up getting put out because we were going on a total blackout, which means that nobody could leave, nobody could use the phone, any of that. So she ended up leaving, and that crushed me. And then the other one, she got in an argument and threatened another resident. So then she ended up getting put out. So I was left as the only one. So in a house of 11 women, I was the only person of color. And now that part was difficult because there was that piece in the back that said if anything does happen, they're gonna look at me first. So I tried to present model behavior. Like I tried to do everything that I was supposed to do so that I would never be looked at for anything. The one rule I did, I broke the rule of not having snacks in your room. And that's, my meds they had me, I craved carbs at nighttime. But then another med dropped my blood pressure to the point where I would get lightheaded and dizzy. So I would just take a little sandwich bag of pretzels up to my room at night. I knew I wasn't supposed to do it, but it's like my body needed it. But they were in a nice little Ziploc bag, and I would tuck them in my nightstand. And one day they did room checks, and we came back and they said, Marnisha, you've got to be the only person we know to neatly break a rule. So they actually thanked me for having it in a sandwich bag and nicely sealed. They was like, no, don't eat in your room anymore. But yeah, like it was a great thing to know that it was any problems that happened in that house were not of me.
Great, thank you. I'm just gonna ask you, have you ever breastfed any of your children? I didn't even ask that.
No, I wish I had, but back in early 2000s, they weren't too heavy on breastfeeding. They would ask you once and then just move past it.
Okay, and the final question is, where are you?
Where are you with forgiveness? Because you mentioned a lot about apologizing to your adult children.
Mm-hmm.
Have you forgiven yourself in this journey?
Yes, I have forgiven myself. And I have to sometimes continuously forgive myself. There's still others that I'm working on forgiving, because the forgiveness is for me. And this is for anybody, anybody that's listening. Like, forgiveness is not for the other person. We don't forgive them to let them off the hook or anything. This is something that you do between you and your higher power. You go and you offer your forgiveness for that person so that that grip that they have on your life, it'll release. What I've learned and been taught, the phrase that they say is, staying mad at somebody that hurt you is like you holding your hand on a hot stove and expecting it to burn them. Stop burning yourself. So like there's some things I've forgiven some people for, and then there's some things with those same people I'm still working on it. It's a journey, and I really had to come to forgiveness for myself. Literally, it was this year. It was April the 29th to be exact. Because that was the day that the sheriff was coming to put the lock on the apartment. And I'm sitting there with my baby girl, and I'm just like, I'm so sorry, because how did we end up here again? Like everything was going good. And I actually had a therapy appointment scheduled for that morning. It was the first initial consultation. But then I found out that she actually wasn't a therapist. She did medication management and she was a life coach. She still instilled some words into me that day. And she said, forgive yourself. She's like, you are sitting here waiting to be evicted. She's like, you just let me know you're just waiting for them to come and change the lock, to lock you out. And you still chose to keep this appointment. And I told her, yeah, because like what? She assured me how I was born into brokenness, so how could anybody ever expect me to be whole? And she let me know that even when I did turn to the drugs, she said, you did what you knew, you did the best you could with what you had as well. So the same grace that I have granted others and been granting others, I had to really take a hold and grant myself. And then I just had to really learn to just let go and let God work. It's okay to cut ties with people. You don't have to keep a relationship. But you just forgive, take control back of your life, and just keep moving forward. And that's just what I do every day. Just every day is just another step forward. It's another step closer. But it's also another step closer to going all the way backwards. So just keep your eyes on the prize.
This is going to be the final question. If you could wave a magic wand, what's one thing you would want to be different?
If I could wave a magic wand and make everything different,
What's one thing you would want to be different?
I would heal everybody's hurt. No one would hurt. I would heal all the hurt.